What is not a smart way to negotiate when you're buying a home? Hi, I'm Paul R. Atkinson, and today we're going to talk about what you should not do when you're negotiating to buy a home. You know, there are some real good techniques that you can use in order to get that seller to move forward with you and nobody else. And I'm going to show you just what you can do as we talk about what not to do when you're negotiating a home purchase in your real estate business, or if you are a buyer, what you shouldn't do. So, before we get started and deep into this, I want you to remember that in the description, you're always going to be able to find tools that you can use to negotiate and just to be able to close that deal, that make it goes in a direction that you want to see it, and mutually where the seller want to see it as well, because that's a win-win situation to me when all parties are mutually happy. You know, that's one thing I love about real estate that I learned back in 2003 when I first started. I love the business because it's the first place that I see at a closing where everybody is happy. The buyer is happy. The buyer's getting a new home. The seller is moving on to another property. The inspector got a little piece of the pie. The insurance agent, the mortgage broker, the realtors. It's a beautiful thing. So these are some of the things that you should not do when you're negotiating in a contract. So let's think about them and start talking about them. Number one, the first thing that you should not do when you're negotiating to buy a property is to piss that person off. Straight up. Don't get underneath somebody's skin. Come on. You've got to be able to build rapport, build a connection, and get that person to like you and just be interested in making a deal with you. You've got to build a connection. And it's important that you do that. So many times you get into a transaction and you could see where the heart rate is just racing. The heart is racing because you're not liking that person. It's just, you know, why is that? Think about that. Why would someone not like you? Because perhaps you've offended them. Perhaps you've said something that, you know, they really doesn't sit well with them on their stomach. Think about it. So you need to be tactful. Don't be in a position where you're causing someone to be distasteful, dissatisfied in what you're communicating to them. So you've got to be able to connect with your client or even with the seller. Anybody that you're wanting to be able to negotiate with, you should have a connection with them. It's very important. The second thing that you want to do is to show some psychological reciprocity, meaning that you're able to give this person that you're negotiating with credit for their beliefs and their thought process. If whatever it is that you're negotiating, you're giving them credit, and you're showing that you understand the value in what they're saying or doing, then they become morally obligated to give you credit for your thoughts and your beliefs. And we talk about that very deeply in the 5 Steps to the Sale course that we do. And that's a phenomenal course. And this is not to push you in that direction. It's just to let you know the resources, right? When you learn how to use psychological reciprocity in your negotiation skills, it really helps you to win the deal. Straight up. So let me kind of like give you some samples of it. So let's say that you're negotiating with a seller, right? And you are a listing agent. So you represent the seller and you want to get the transaction done. So let's just twist it a little bit. Let's say you're acting as a transaction broker. So you're not really representing the seller. You're representing the transaction. You want to see the deal go through. Now, with that being said, the seller points out to you that, hey, you know what? They're offering me $10,000 less than I'm asking, and it's just not good for me because I need to be able to move on to buy another property. Okay, here's where psychological reciprocity comes into play. You have to use this personality, this kind of attitude, this kind of technique that I'm about to show you so you can move the seller forward. And here's how it goes. So the seller says to you, well, you know, it's 10,000 less than what I'm asking and I don't see how I can move forward. You would say, oh, I totally understand how you feel, seller. Others have felt that way. And that brings up a question and the question is, how are we going to deal with the $10,000 that's actually standing in the way of you moving on to your next adventure, your next purchase, your next relocation? Is that what you're saying? How do we handle that $10,000? Is that what it is? That's psychological reciprocity. That is how you're giving them credit for their beliefs. You're not shutting them down. You're not saying, hey, I don't know, what else do you think you're going to do? There's no better offer. You don't do that. Too many of us realtors have this attitude, bad attitude as a matter of fact, and you don't have that finesse. You don't have that professional skill and tact to know how to work through a negotiation. That's just one sample. Now, here's some other things that I see in negotiation with realtors in today's marketplace. Here's another one, number 3. You are negotiating with someone, and not only are you not connecting with the people that you're negotiating with, and you're not building psychological reciprocity where you're showing them that you value what they are feeling and believing, but you're also negotiating and not being able to be what I call a rational thinker. And it sounds like psychological reciprocity, but it's not. A rational thinker is where you can develop more intellect and more skill set to understand what your opponent, so to speak, or the person that you're negotiating with, what they are going through. You see, when you put yourself in their shoe, that's what a rational thinker is. You're putting yourself in their shoe, and you're saying for a minute, you go underneath the tree, you sit down, and you say, wait a second. I wonder what are they feeling right now? Like, what's going on in their mind? And, oh man, they need to reload. You need to understand what that person is going through. When you do that, and you put yourself in that little box for 2 seconds, the juices start to flow like there is no other. That's a secret. I'm giving you the secrets right now. That's a secret. It's so interesting. So those are the 3 things that I know for a fact would help you to negotiate well, and what you should not be doing. Anything other than what I've just showed you, don't do it. Unless it could help the situation. So remember, these 3 things in order for you to negotiate well in your business. It's always a pleasure. And remember, in the description, click on the link that will help you what not to do when you're negotiating in your sales or when you're negotiating with someone. What you should not do. And this is what we talked about today. So remember, rewind the video, take some notes, and just remember, you need to do certain things, right? And if you're not doing these 3 things, then obviously you could be doing something wrong. I hope this was valuable for you. It's been valuable for me for more than 30 years. And this is how you negotiate a deal with a seller, with a buyer. It doesn't matter who you're negotiating with. You've got to have a connection. You've got to be able to understand and value what they value. And you've got to be a rational thinker, because of being a rational thinker puts you in the driver's seat of coming up with more ideas to solve the problem. Phenomenal. I feel like I'm just giving some gold away today, right? But anyway, until next time, remember, click in the link below and do subscribe so you can get more of these golden nuggets and the secret sauce. I'm Paul R. Atkinson, your professional coach, and I'm delighted to Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Let's go get him, Tiger. I'll see you real soon.